Reset with Raven family. Welcome back. Today's episode is going to be good. If you're in your 30s and ready to retire already, stay locked into this episode because this episode is for you. We are joined by Michelle Powell of Baltimore, who is a serial entrepreneur from real estate investing to travel groups to an apparel line. Michelle is helping Black women by focusing on their relationship with themselves, their money, and their future. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Raven.
I am so excited to talk about this because I'm like retirement. I've been ready to retire for a long time. It's crazy because I remember like when you think about getting your first job, you're like, I'm so excited. And now when you've been working for a while, you're like, I'm tired.
When is this ending?
Exactly. So, I call it, Facebook stalk, aka research all of my guests. So you posted something on your Facebook page on Juneteenth.
Okay. Yes.
And you put retired, 36 and free on Juneteenth. I found the way to have my 9 to 5 fund my dream. And now I get paid to live them forever. Girl, tell us how you retired at 36.
You know what the thing is, hearing my words read back to me and remembering when I wrote them and how I felt then, and just now we're post 6-7 months now. So it's like, oh, thank you for that walk down memory lane. It has been amazing. And so, yes, I have no problem sharing that because I'm telling you, it was in me discussing about how I felt free. I was being very dramatic and I wanted to, have those signifying moments. We all know what Juneteenth represents. But for me, I needed that freedom to choose me. And in that, I had worked in, so a little background about myself. I did the American dream, where the American dream you're told is going to make you rich and you're not going to have to worry about anything. And the hard work that you put in is going to lead to everything that you desire in life. And so was a graduate of Baltimore City High School. I went to college here in Maryland at Frostburg State University. And there I really just started to think I was grown. I dived into making sure I was in classes, student loans, social life on campus, and adulting. And so in that, I share was because I my track plan was to be in legal. I wanted to be an attorney at the time. And so I did undergrad in legal. And after I graduated, I had to, think about like, okay, I knew I was very passionate about the legal industry, but I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go to law school, but I wasn't quite ready yet. And so I went and started my master's program, and I did really well that I can stay consistent with it and finish it. And it led me to be able to, my last job in the legal field was working at the Department of Justice at the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the District of Maryland. And in it, it was so rewarding because it taught me so much about structure and just the law, angles and degrees that you start to understand differently, and not necessarily but what you see of people doing, and really helps you to be accountable as a person, because and be in a situation of being like a victim or being deprived, you would want justice, for whatever situation you're in. But what I found after a while is that the justice that I was holding up or working on behalf of others, I was kind of lacking for myself. And I say that because I knew that I had a purpose of just wanting more. Like, I wanted more money, I wanted more time. And I say that because in going through all this education, like, that required money, And so in it, you have different programs that were available, like, the public service forgiveness loan program. And it was like, okay, it shortens your time with paying these 2 loans, but it wasn't shortening enough that I felt like, okay, I'm comfortably living my dreams. I'm comfortably, in that environment. And so pandemic hit. I was kind of like at a standstill. I didn't know if I wanted to move, where I wanted to do my job. And then pandemic hit. And honestly, it was a blessing because for the first time, our agency got to work remotely. And so in that, I had already kind of started the summer prior to. So we know pandemic was almost 2 years ago, but summer 2019, I really just started getting uncomfortable being comfortable. And in that, I decided, I was like, okay, well, I knew I was passionate about real estate. To be really, really honest with you, I didn't know which angle to go because I didn't know how affordability was going to look. in regards to that. I had started some independent business ventures, and they were really helping me to get more financially responsible with my money, having a better relationship with my money. I started to seek counseling and advice in regards to it. And I knew that it was like, okay, I want to own this properties. I want this block. I want this town. I wanted it as well, but I wanted to know how I was going to be able to afford it without feeling like I was, breaking bank to do so. And so I decided to start taking some real estate investment courses over that summer, and literally was like, all right, I'm not going to sit on this. I'm registering my business. Like, I'm going to follow all the steps. I did my research as far as how to do that. And I was going to make it happen. Right. And I was going to figure it out along the way. Right. Because what I knew was like, yeah, I was comfortable with my job. It was a decent salary. But like I said, I was still having to pay for that life that I chose with that. I was still having to, and it was on like a 20, 30-year mark, with the, or 10-year, depending on what program you want. And so fast forward, I got my first property. A few months later, I had a partner, got our first property, and we got into it. And I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot to take on.
So
But
this is the summer of 2020 you got your first property, or a year before?
no, so summer of 2019, I started my business, but I got my first property in December of 2019.
Okay.
So, and starting that, like, this was a few months right before the pandemic hit in. So, in me getting into this industry, I had no clue. But what I did know is that I still had my full time, I was working for somebody else, and it was help funding this dream of mine. So,
Got it, got it.
I'm figuring out I'm making it work. And it was a lot, like more than I could have ever imagined.
So you took courses though. You did some prep work. You took courses. Did you have a mentor? Like I need you to back up because how did you go from like I got this idea in the summer of 2019, right?
Uh-huh.
Take some courses and then get your first property. What did that look
Oh,
like?
okay. Yeah, because
Who
that
did you
does
have to
sound.
talk to? What did you research? Because I'm sure people listening like I'm trying to retire too. Give us the details.
Okay, so just on Instagram, there was different real estate investors that were offering like intro courses for understanding. So three facets to real estate: you have wholesale, you have hold buy and flips, and then you have rentals. And so in it, it was kind of an overview to let you know, like, these are the options that you can get into real estate investment. Like, which one did you want to try to get into first to make money? And so I found this course online. I did a couple weeks. Well, it was like a month of courses. I think, yeah, it was about a month of courses. And we sat down. Honestly, like the partners and the friends I was with was like, look, we're all doing this together. Like, we're gonna sit here, we're gonna take this education, and we're gonna, see what we can make of it.
These are people you already knew.
Yeah, these were people.
Okay.
They were just kind of my network,
Okay.
around me. And I'm all about seeing everybody win. So it was like, if they had that desire, and it was like, we can both win at the same time. Okay, let's do it. Or somebody's got to take the blueprint first. So that's what I say with this. Like, when I got up and made that company official, I wasn't going to wait, because you can't wait for somebody else to validate your dreams. And a lot of
Mm.
when you are waiting for someone to make up their mind, I'm gonna tell you this, even with trips. Okay. One thing I know, my friends will know. Okay, I'm gonna ask you one time and then I'm gone. Okay. Because in it, you're gonna talk me out of living my dreams. And so in it, just as I was taking those courses, I took it a little bit further, where I outreached to the course instructor to see how we could work one-on-one with each other. And we had a brief relationship where he kind of provided some mentor opportunities or some additional guidance. So when I went into my property, we didn't have a long-term agreement, but even when I went to it, it was really a lot of trial and error.
Mm.
I had a lot of book understanding, a lot of shows, that you would understand. And but that real time is everything. And the blessing was that I still had that full-time job, because it allowed for what we think is, like a quick flip. So you're gonna think it's gonna take you 3 months. That joint took me 12 months to sell. From purchase to selling, it took 12 months, which is kind of standard, which is like a standard agreement when you are getting your funding. However, for the investor's mind, you're like, I need my money now. You want that money immediately. However, it's part of staying the process, right? And why I throw in all the events that were happening, because while I'm learning a whole new industry, because I came from working in legal, working for Department of Justice, like, we got order, we got regulation, we have structure. This was different. I didn't have any really knowledge into houses or flip or anything in regards to construction. I just had a passion for wanting to have residual income, to create generational wealth, and to have freedom for myself to be able to make the choices. I didn't want to feel like I got to put leave in to go somewhere. And, it's not necessarily to knock anybody. I just go a lot of places. So a lot of times in asking those questions, I didn't want to be had the response of an excuse as to why the team needs me, or this person's got this going on, because at the end of the day I'm always going to need myself. So, and I'm always going to choose myself first. So in going through that process of, after I sold that house, I made my salary from that sale of the house in that year. And
Oh wow! So from December 2019 to the year following, you made your salary.
made my salary.
But you had already had left, become free then before then.
No, I hadn't. This is leading up until, so we're, so weird because right now we're in 2022, just started. But essentially a year ago, that house just sold a few weeks, a year ago. And so I was still working at the Department of Justice, because that post that you were reading was from this prior June. So
Got it. That was 2021. Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
So in it was like, okay, I was going into this new year with just a different confidence, a different understanding. I was very, very proud of myself, very proud of my group, my partnership, that we were able to accomplish this, right? Because it was that defeat feeling like you can't, right? And it was all just mental, because we did. It wasn't even you can't. We did. That house, anybody that has to follow me, that has seen, you've seen that house, it has sold already. It was such a learning lesson, such a pain, but
And you only took on one during this time, right?
only
This time
one, yeah.
frame.
But this was a big house. This was 2,500 square foot.
Wow.
So for your first property, this was a 5-bedroom that we converted. And I think originally had 7 bedrooms. We converted it to 5. We had to add bathrooms in. So, you're talking, it was a lot of work.
And this was a buy and flip. Was that what this
Yes.
was?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to recap a lot of the things you just said, because there's some key takeaways and I'm like just super impressed of what you've accomplished and what you're continuing to accomplish. But I don't want anyone to miss what you said. Like, you did your own personal research.
Yeah.
You took courses. You paid for courses, correct?
I invested.
And then you also reached out to the course instructor for personal or additional guidance, because I think people, and I'll speak for myself, I remember when I jumped into entrepreneurship, and like I had no idea. Like, I really had no idea what I didn't know. And it's the journey, it's the process, it's the education, it's the investment. And you also talked about there was a lot of trial and error, and it was 12 months, and you had one singular focus during this time. So, I mean, there's just so many gems you dropped just then. And the thing that you said that really, really stood out to me is that this was funding your dreams. I'm so grateful for that job at that time, because someone had to remind me, as I'm working, that my job is fueling my dreams. So it's not that, the jobs are a setback, and there's nothing wrong with having a job to put you into position to go after your dreams, because you need money, you need resources. And one of the things that I remember when I jumped off into the deep end of entrepreneurship, one of the things I think that like I was not initially prepared for, financially, mentally, is the process and the time that it takes and the money that you need to fuel this, to fund this. And there's no shame in like, okay, I need money to put myself into position so I can do this comfortably. Because when you are stressed about money, when you're stressed about how you gonna eat, you can't even think straight. Like 1 + 1, you're like, I don't know. 3, I can't get there. So it was just so much. I just really wanted to call that out about how you used and the gratitude from everything that you learned in your government role, in your job. And also too, another thing you said, I want you to talk about this, what it's like going from like something where there's structure, rules, policy, to like, oh, we out here. That's almost like people like, we outside. It's like, we out here. I don't know. We're gonna have to swim. We out here now. When you're an entrepreneur, talk to us about that.
That is a real subject matter. And it's so funny. I've been doing development on Wednesdays with a partner. We kind of coach entrepreneurs. We didn't kind of we coach entrepreneurs, workingpreneurs that are getting to it, just kind of how to avoid some of the mishaps, some of the downfalls that you have forgotten what made you want to get into business to begin with. Putting yourself on a structure, because it is. I'm telling you, one thing I had got into a very comfortable habit of is waking up early for work and just laying in the bed and playing on social media, or just playing on my email, or playing on a game, or whatever. And so with it, it was like, okay, I had to really one valuable tool that I had at my 9 to 5 was I would come to work and I would literally write down agenda and all the things that I needed to tackle for that day. I would make it for personal files. I would make it for business development files, right? Or things I was doing in the office, right? Because I really wanted to be able to effectively give time. And I mean that in the way, not to say like, hey, don't do any work at your job. I'm not saying that was the case whatsoever, but more so just having some structures that you feel like you're accomplishing something to move forward. That is the biggest thing. And when you're working for yourself every day, you have to get up and kind of have that discipline. How I've between writing it down and also putting it in my calendar, because I know that I am in my freeness, and me being free, I know I can kind of just, get sidetracked, and audibles can come about and it can take me off. But things that I know are time sensitive, or things that I know that I might not see as that they're going to come to a point of an urgency, I try to get ahead of them, because the one thing, stress, it kills, and it is so real that we bring it on ourselves. There's been so many times just in this journey where I've had to like really step back and regrow and regroup and say, you know what, you need to chill, sis. Like you need to breathe. You need to figure out differently, because in being a serial entrepreneur, there's always something that you're doing. You have one business, but when you're trying to do multiple things, this one's this, needs this, and this has this going on, and this has this going on, and this mishap happened. And in it, it's like, how do you juggle it where it doesn't feel overwhelming, right? It Before, my excuse was it was overwhelming because I had a 9 to 5 that I was working funding somebody else's dreams, but I was using it to, their money to fund my own for the future. And so in it, I had to, and I'm glad you brought up like being grateful. I have a great mentor that literally every time we start our sessions, I do this with my clients as well too. We speak of what we're grateful for, right? Because life is going to tell you, there's things happening all the time in our personal lives that we're witnessing that is something to complain about, to, to be negative about, to overthink. But there's so many on the opposing end, great things to be grateful for. And those are the things that get you to the next. That is the thing that gets you. So in it, I'm grateful for like the discipline. When I really just kind of, because there's a lot of times that I'm not disciplined, right? That I have to bring in outside help. And you bring it up, I invest in myself. So for example, I've been more attentive to like my fitness goals, my health goals. So I know I have to hire a trainer, right? Because in here doing some push-ups in my house, or I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it halfway. I'm not going to put all into it. So I know when to outsource things that are just not in my wheelhouse and work for me. But the things that I feel like I'm overextending myself to, or that I'm not taking seriously, if it's not developing, I have to see what I'm losing in it. What am I
Mm.
overlooking, that there was a lesson that I didn't take into play? So, I love that a good colleague of mine, a good friend, she put up the word this year for was consistency, because with consistency, you will see results. And that is like one of the great things that I'm just really trying to keep in the forefront, but also manage as I have so many obligations and responsibilities with my companies and myself.
That's good. That's good. So when do you know, let me ask this question. When you thought about like, hey, I'm going to go into real estate, and then even when you talked about your fitness goals, when do you know like, okay, I need to outsource this, or I need some accountability, or I need some support, some help? Like what is the, I guess, deciding factor? What kind of goes through your thought process when you're like, okay, this is not something that I can tackle on my own?
Well, I'm really real with myself. I think that I give myself a timeline to fail, and then I learn from those moments and failures.
Mm,
So,
a
for
timeline to fail.
and this is what I mean by that, right? So, in it, I give my time. I invest my time to really to win. But when I fail, if I fail, I try to learn from. So, not to sound pessimistic or negative, but I also know. So, for example, my gym. I've been a part of this gym for so long. Location had closed. And so I had to decide, did I want to drive, a good distance to the new one, or did I want to try to find something more locally that was a brainer change? And it didn't matter if I was paying $10, $20 a month, right? I was not going 5 minutes up the road as I was when I was putting more investment into it, right? When I was
Mm.
and in it, I was seeing more results. So why I say again, my time it felt when pandemic happened, all of us had to stay home. We had to kind of figure it out, right? But I didn't like what I was gaining as a result of it, literally, in the literal sense. Great things were happening with my business, great thing, but I was feeling really tired. So, in the morning when I'm saying, oh, not wanting to get out of bed, I'm playing. Well, now I'm playing even more because I'm on my own time, versus another, a company that I'm going for, or if I don't have an appointment. So what I'll do with it was when I started to just do just something that would be more to a fitness achievement. It was like, okay, well, you're going to take this walk around the block. Okay, that feels good. I'm
Mm.
getting up to go train with this insane trainer because it drives, it fuels that fire in me, right? It's not a matter of feeling like I know that ultimately I'm competing against myself. So, and always striving to be the best version of myself, I literally look for ways like, okay, and I'm really with myself, like, all right, that you are not doing this right about now, and you paid all these meal prep services, right? And they've all given you great food, but you still not eating the food and you're not staying disciplined. So there's got to be something to change about it. So that's where I say I give myself that permission. And then not only I give myself for that permission to fail, but I give those moments to say, I'm trying something different. It's not really working for me. Let me go with what does work for me. And then along the way, if you got to tweak that, then okay, let's see how I'm going to tweak that, because things are always going to change. There's always going to be something that comes up, that just takes you off rail. But one thing I realized, just even with travel and how passionate I'm with that, if I can impulsively buy a flight and get up and go, well, then I can make an impulsive decision for the betterment of myself. And I have to be just as committed to that as I am for things that don't always suit us. I saw like about a month ago, before, and I've got myself together right now, right? We're gonna stay strong with this. So I'm so that I look back on them like, yeah, she's still sticking to it. But like you're riding home, you're like, oh, I want some ice cream. And then I go get ice cream and it was not worth any of
Mm.
the necessary, necessity to have it. So, you really have to, that's what I say, give yourself permission to fail. There's several books that just kind of, even with stop smoking, I had a friend that was trying to stop smoking. And I remember they were saying that like trying to suppress and say, don't have that cigarette was doing more harm than it was doing good. It was just like, get to the point where you have it so you realize, why am I having this? Why do I feel the need that I have to have this? And I felt that when I was having that ice cream, that particular, it was like, it wasn't even that good. Like,
Mm.
it had frostbite on it, whatever else was the consistency taste right. But I had to have that, to go through that process to be that, glutton for punishment, literally, to say, okay, when I get tired of myself, then that's when the changes is really going to come. So, and I got, getting sick and tired of being sick.
No, what you said that's powerful in terms of going through the process. Like I remember I tell people like, I just need to get it out of my system. And as you were talking about, like, okay, I had that ice cream and it wasn't worth it. It wasn't that great. It wasn't like, and even if it gave you like that rush or rise for, the enjoy that sugar rush, okay, then that was like 10 seconds of that. And now I'm like, I shouldn't have eaten that. But to your point, you had to go through that process to even get like that type of understanding. And another thing you said that is really like hitting home with me, you're like, I get real with myself. Like you know you better than anybody. And one of the things that I'm actively working on is getting real with me. Like questioning, as you were saying, why did I do that? What did I gain from that? Was that helpful? Why did I say that? Why did I speak like that? Why did I think like that? Why did I, criticize myself? Like that internal self-talk, and then like process those thoughts. It's like, oh, was that helpful? Was that nurturing? Was that good for me? Did you spread positivity? And when you're getting real with yourself, it's uncomfortable. What did you say? You said getting
Ooh,
comfortable being uncomfortable. It's
uncomfortable.
so
Mhm.
uncomfortable because It's been brought to my attention recently and over just a period of time that I need to really be careful of the language that I use to describe myself, like that self talk. A lot of us, we are our own biggest self critics.
Yes, we are.
And it's like, question, where is that language coming from? Where is that thought pattern coming from? We talked about this at the beginning, and I really want to circle back around to this because you specifically said that you help Black women. And I want to know what for you is important and what for you do you feel like that tug or that calling, whatever term that you utilizes to describe it, why like it's very important for me to help Black women with their future and having a great relationship with themselves and their money.
Well, because I'm a Black woman, that needed help and will always need help. And in that, it doesn't take away from any other woman, any man, any gender, specific person, but with it, it was getting my niche so that I could feel that I was on the road to what was destined for me. And with it, I had to see how did my former self, my avatar was my former self. I did a podcast class recently. And one thing they were talking about was identifying your avatar, identifying your niche. And in it was like one thing, the biggest things that I took away was those two things, like being very clear on whom I wanted to help intentionally, right? And it really, you could say everyone, but your message is not for everyone. And so in it, why I want to speak to Black women, because I understand, if we can all kind of gather around and understand the beautifulness of Insecure in it, well, okay, let's understand it enough so we can talk about it, so we can overcome what we're witnessing, because we're identifying with it because we experience it, right? It's very relatable. We as a Black woman, we get it. So in it, how can we get things differently so we can have a different outcome for ourselves? It started with myself. All the things that is my focus point is what I made the focus point for myself. So I got a better relationship with myself. And I did that by seeking therapy first, having real conversations about things that I couldn't make sense of, right? Because I'm very driven, very ambitious. I put my mind to it, it happens. But sometimes the outcome wasn't happening as I wanted, right? And with it, I was having a hard time just accepting it. Like, look, I put all this great work into it. I deserve this. This was supposed to come out. And then I had to have a step back and understand, was my message for the right person, right? You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And so in knowing that, I had to be very much okay with the rejection or my message not coming over to that person, and just me be able to keep it moving and talk to someone that it does convey to differently. Then I had to look at my money, and I had to see that while I was complaining about the student loans and I'm complaining about, the lights and the bills, and why was I complaining? Why did it feel so uncomfortable, to make these financial purchases? Why was it so comfortable swiping that credit card to have an outfit, just to have for that day, for that occasion? So I had to really like put myself on a budget. I mean, it got real, like 5, 6 years ago. It was like, okay, I stripped down this internet. I took down all the cable. I had a house phone at the time because I wasn't trying to let old habits go from like being a child. Because I just knew that, you're a grown up when you have a house phone. But so I had to cut it all off, and I had to get uncomfortable with how my money was going out every month to maintain living paycheck to paycheck and change it differently. And that's how I got to that point where, and things just started opening up differently. When you invest in yourself, I promise you, things just open up differently. You come into opportunities. Your issues with money don't become so much because you become in situations or around people that you realize how money is the tool. And it's not necessarily like, okay, we got to figure out how we're going to flip this, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that. So after that, then at that point, it was like each one teach one. Okay, well, the women around me, the women that I admire the most, the women that are asking me, how am I being of a servant and how am I helping them, become learn this information, because understanding investments wasn't easy, right? You would hear guys talk about stocks, and I'm not even gonna say guys, it was just more so what I was seeing on financial sites or things online. It wasn't too many Blacks in this arena that I'm seeing talking about it. And so in it, it was like, okay, well, why aren't we talking about it? Because it absolutely matters. If I want to have more properties, if I want to get, more items, more assets under my belt, how do I see that I can be able to do this without it feeling like, it is breaking my pockets, where it feels like I can't get my head above water. I had to change that focus differently. So that's how that became my passion. And with it, it was, one of my companies, and kind of give life to is you mentioned it about my travel group, my travel apparel line. With it, I love traveling, right? And a lot of times I've become more familiar with social media, but I hated like sharing everything or feeling like everybody was in my business. And, just another getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? I didn't need it. But what I loved from it, because I was thinking in the mindset, people were going to use it against me, right? They were going to use it to
Mm.
hurt me with it. And more so when I worked at Department of Justice, that was the one thing they kind of preached to us, is like being very mindful of what you put online, which you should always, right? But with it, in that mindfulness, it was like, okay, mindfulness doesn't mean that you don't have to be intentional. So if I'm
Mhm.
intentionally putting positivity, putting outlets that just show you differently, well, then I'm using, as I say, use your powers for good. You're using what you have around you for good to influence. Those that don't see in my vision, they will fall off. They will fall by the wayside, because we don't talk the same way. We don't communicate. We don't see things the same way, and it's okay. My vision is for me and vice versa. So in that, I love that it allowed me to be able to show other Black women, like, hey, girl, if you're trying to get out of this country, let's go, sis. Okay, because this passport say ready. I'm all about exploring different destinations, and I saw a great example from my grandfather on my father's side. He had a travel group, same company name.
Oh.
Yeah, and so with it, it was like I saw them doing those things, and I got to go, to a vacation with them here and there. But I wanted to. My grandfather died in 2004, and so as a result, I was still in college. I think, my sophomore year in college, and so I wasn't understanding a family business to be able to jump into to make my own for the future. But as I started to travel more, I saw for what he loved, I loved as well too. And I didn't
Mm.
grow up around him, but I saw how much we were so much alike in that area. And it was like, okay, if he can do it, I could definitely do it. I saw where I was already walking in footsteps and patterns like they were. And it was just like, okay, believing in yourself. You're going to learn. Every trip teaches me something different. Every experience, leaves an impression differently in my mind. And I love that I'm able to make it available to other Black women, to women in general, to people in general that will want to travel, to say like, hey, we can go to France and it does not have to feel like it costs $5,000. We can go considerably less, have the same experience, and make it your own. So I've gotten so fortunate in those arenas, that just having that awareness and pouring to myself, that I'm able to literally live my dreams. It's not easy. It is not easy at
Mm.
all. I mean, just as you talked on being an entrepreneur, you know how hard it is. You got, it starts and stops with you, because it's your company. The thing is that I continue to show up every day. I make sure that I show up, and so there's nowhere to show to.
I am glad you are saying that. Like, it's confirmation of just so many people's experiences when they do take that leap, when they do take that jump. Like, it's not necessarily easy. For most people, it probably isn't easy. But what you said is, I show up consistent. And when you were, oh my gosh, you were like singing like the story of my life when you like social media. I literally, I guess my, what do you call it, millennial card should have been revoked. I was not even on social media. Like, I mean, I had the accounts, but I did not use them because I'm like, okay, people like in my business, they watching, they judging, they lurking, like. So it was a lot to even get on social media for me. So as you were talking about that, I can completely relate. And again, consistency, showing up, and you talked about serving. Like, you saw a need and you are fulfilling a need, and you saw it with your grandfather. So I love that. Before I ask my final question, where can everyone find you online? Because we want to know more about the travel groups. We want to know like what courses to take. So if you have any recommendations, let us know about what courses we can take if we're interested to just start our real estate journey. So let us know.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Goals with Shelly P. Again, that's Goals with Shelly P on Instagram, and it leads to my Facebook as well too. I'm Michelle D. Powell the second on Facebook as well too, so I can be found on there. So as far as any courses or any recourse, I offer accountability coaching for individuals. As I stated, I assist Black women in becoming the best versions of themselves. So with it, you can always find me there. And it'll take you in my bio, it'll take you to any of my websites that you can book an appointment with me, or you can see my other sites. So you have Soul Journey if you like to travel. And that is like a big thing. I hope that we can talk travel soon. That is a huge passion of mine. This is our line, my first design from our line. So With it, you can go to souljourneytravel.com. On Instagram, it is Soul Journey Travel as well too, and on Facebook as well too. And we are doing our first trip for 20. Well, I might add one in there. I'm gonna see this week, but for this year, for 2022, we are going to Egypt in May. So I am so excited for this trip. We got our itinerary together. Our Egyptologist over there and I were just speaking the other day, and oh my gosh, I'm just so excited. So with it, you can on that website, on those IG channels, you can find me for real estate investments. It's underscore at 3 Charms LLC on Instagram. And so we could do it in courses. So if there was real estate assistance that you need, hit me on the Goals with Shelly P. I definitely do one-on-one development. And if not, I always will talk to people on how they can get their needs met by somebody else locally in their area. Some things are they're not in my wheelhouse. I don't believe in, trying to fake it and be like, oh yeah, I got you. If not, we're going to get it for you, because if that desire is there, I always love, assisting anyone that just wants to have differences for themselves. That's all about development and growth. And I'm just so fortunate to be in the position that I am now.
Awesome, awesome. And final question, what is the greatest lesson you've learned in your reset?
Oh, the greatest lesson has been forgiveness of myself. And in that forgiveness came love. And out of that love, I learned how to love differently, whether that was with the boundaries from my overflow and not directly from my cup. And more so on that path of forgiveness, I was able to process and think things differently so that I could choose differently in the future. So that would be my biggest thing. I love yourself, and be forgiving, because you might not always make the decisions that you wanted or the outcomes, but it is always going to be okay. It's always going to get better.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raven.
All right, everyone. As promised, another amazing episode. Freedom to choose me. You can't wait for someone else to validate your dreams. Ultimately, I'm competing against myself. Be real with you. Y'all, the reset experience does not stop here. You personally know someone who is experiencing their own reset and could benefit from an uplifting message, inspiration to keep going, and information that can change their life. So I ask you, share this episode. I hope this reset message encouraged and uplifted you today. As always, remember, a reset is always available to you.